So I have Paul Di Muzio, who is a high school buddy of mine. Love the guy. He's so fun to hang out with. He's so fun to talk to. We got him on the phone right now. We're going to share some pictures. A little bit embarrassing. I'm going to share some pictures of me in high school. And you'll probably have a laugh. And we're going to see if Paul can dig up a picture of him. And we've got a couple of pictures together as well. Paul, thanks for coming on my podcast that doesn't quite have a name yet, but we're under the Saturday morning Vogue Review News, a legal entity here in Maryland. Go ahead, Paul.
A cool name.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you for saying that. He doesn't really mean it. No, I know you mean it. He's a very honest guy. Paul, you're calling from Long Island right now. Where are you at exactly?
I'm in Gorham.
Gorham, on the North Shore of Long Island, and we met in high school, so we've known each other for how long? Forever at this point?
30-something years.
That's crazy. Yeah, 30-something.
So do the math, and anyone who does the math and figures it out, keep it to yourself.
Yes, please do that. Please do that. Absolutely. Now, we were talking a little bit before we just went on the air, and we were getting so involved in the conversation. We're like, hold on, we're going to save it for the show and just talk. Let people listen, let people get to know me and you a little better as well. I can't for the life of me remember where and what day we met exactly. I know we met in high school, but you're saying we met a specific day. And I can't imagine what was going through your mind when you saw this picture that's going to be put on the side of the screen, which is going to be me. And, I'll have to ask for forgiveness, but I was into Prince back then, so I was trying to be a little bit like Prince in the Revolution. Purple Rain came out, and so you must have looked over at me and be like, who the heck is this guy? I still wear a black trench coat. People that know me today see me in black trench coat, and it's funny you said that. I had one on yesterday.
Oh, God, but I never knew you had because you spent just after your first summer in the Army, because you did the basic training split up over 2 summers because you were in high school.
That's right.
And,
yeah.
Oh, God, you had a mustache.
Well, now let's talk about that. That was all about looking older back then, which is what we were trying to do. I guess like so many other young men at the time, trying to look older. At least I was trying to look older.
Yeah, we all were. We wanted to get attention from older women who were more mature and blah, 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 all that.
Well, I think I was just trying to look more older, and I think all I achieved was just looking the same age with a mustache, and that's about it.
You used to wear a lot of sweaters, too.
Well, New York is cold.
Yeah, but you don't more than kind of, let's say, fall.
I looked at my military identification back then, and I weighed 120 pounds back then. So people that are walking around 120 pounds, they're colder than maybe people with a little more meat. Like right now, I'm not as cold as I used to be. So I imagine that's what it would be. Yeah.
No, I remember when the Gulf War happened, and you were screaming about $22 up.
Remember those days?
Before the Gulf War, it was like 92 cents.
I think even lower than that. Maybe in the 80s. Yeah, 80 something.
We remember, let's say, 3 hours after Kuwait got invaded, the guys at the top were raising it up to like $1.
Yeah, all like speculation for what would happen and everything. Wild time back then. Things were so different compared to today. Those that were alive at the time know exactly what we're talking about too. A lot of things have been much, much different back then, and but I wanted to mention, you and I, the school that we went to, we were at Comsewogue High School. That's Port Jefferson Station, New York. I think I spent half of my high school years trying to figure out how to spell Comsewogue. I think I spelt it wrong probably half the time. But I'm pretty good at it now. See, now I would have to write it down to get that right. I don't think I could just do it off the top of my head. I have to write it down. Isn't that terrible?
Yeah, well, and spelling's not was always one of my areas. Even when I became a teacher, I remember misspelling like a word or two when I was a teacher. And my mentor teacher, like, idiot, this is how you spell this. And I was like, you're lucky none of them said it. I was like, okay.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, I know you very well, and for you to be a teacher, I know that you were very beneficial to students. I know that you're a very kind, loving person, so that's kind of what we need as teachers, you know. And we had some role models in our school like that, you know, a teacher is so important. So I think from me and Paul to the world, if you're a teacher, thank you so much. And my one daughter is actually a substitute teacher in the public schools here in Queen Anne's County, Maryland. We're extremely proud of her for that as well. But I'm proud of you, Paul, because teaching kids, you know, that takes a special trait. And, you know, I'm sure we didn't always listen to our school teachers every time, but we certainly had our favorites, and they were impacts on our life. I think, at least for me, and I'm pretty sure for you as well.
Yeah. We both knew,
We kind of had the same teachers in sense, and you and I kind of like the same ones, right? We were kind of almost on the same frequency. Yeah, just by chance like that. And interesting, we came from different backgrounds and everything, but somehow, some way, we kind of clicked very good together. And
because I think we're both down to earth. And
yeah,
to be honest, we just wanted to sing to be the way they were. We didn't want the people to rush up everything with, you know, high school. People, you know, back then everything was like a bad 80s movie. So.
well, that's right. But we were good kids. We weren't doing anything wrong. I think we
basically did our thing.
Yeah, we just did our thing. We really never got in any trouble or anything like that. And we did help people. I do remember if somebody ever needed help, we did take care of people if they needed. We sure did. Yeah, I'm proud of that. You know, not everybody can boast that when they were in high school that they did that kind of stuff. But I think we looked out for other people, and we weren't doing silly things or getting in trouble or anything like that.
We kept the low profile.
Kept a low profile. You know, I was into Prince and you were into Batman, right? Yeah.
Oh my God, you call me Batman all the time.
Yeah. Well, that's okay. That's cool to be into Batman. Who cares? That's fine.
Yeah.
And, you know, and
I used to wear Batman t-shirts, and occasionally I still do. I have a couple of.
well, I happen to have a picture of me and you together with you wearing a Batman shirt, so that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
And here we are in 2025 doing that. So,
that trait kind of, you know, got over to my adulthood.
right,
But,
right.
you know, we never did anything like, we weren't, you know, like we weren't into drinking, we weren't into drugs.
No, we didn't do any of that. That's
we
right.
didn't do anything crazy.
Probably why we're still alive today to be on a podcast together too. You know, who knows? Right, right. But, you know, we used to cruise around in the car quite a bit together, right? Because I'm not quite sure. Did we even listen to the same music at the time? I could tell you what I was listening to. Although I love Led Zeppelin now, I really wasn't into them or any hard rock back then. I was into, you know, Prince, and I was into, quite frankly, hip hop. I loved hip hop at the time. You know, I listened to rap, Run DMC, you know, Eric B. and Rakim. They were from Long Island. What? Say that again?
It was different.
Hip hop was much different. It was teaching you how to be a man. Yeah, it wasn't anti-police trying to get you in trouble or telling you to do silly things. No, it was trying to make you better. It was bettering yourself. It was about bettering yourself. And that's what it was, yeah.
I know, and the song back then actually told a story.
It told a story, but it was never anti-police. It was never absolutely not.
We had the era of rock.
Right. And I'll tell you, Run DMC, they broke the threshold because, for a while in our high school, it wasn't okay to listen to rap. And I was like one of the ones that did, and it wasn't like accepted. But as soon as Run DMC came out with that song, Walk This Way, then it was okay. It was half rock and roll, and then it was okay. That they broke. They don't get the credit. They ought to get a new Nobel Peace Prize for that. Honestly, because people would come up to you, other kids would come up to you, and they'll be like, "Well, what music do you listen to?" And if you said hip hop, you might get in a fight. You might, yeah. And then after that song came out, then those guys were listening to Run DMC. So the power of music, amazing. Then it became cool and it was okay. Yeah, then it didn't matter what you listened to. And it never changed after that. They've only gone forward after that. It's been great.
The only thing that changed was the nature of rap, unfortunately.
Yeah, and then it kind of went downhill. I'd like to see it make a comeback, though. Maybe we could get the old time rap. I would love to see some of the old time guys. Let's get them out there. We could ask. I know Biz Markie, he just passed away maybe a year ago, unfortunately. I listened to him.
Well, I guess we won't be running him.
We won't be getting him back, but he lived up in Coram where you are at one time. He did. He did for a short period of time. He sure did. But, I'm wondering what you were listening to at the time.
Well, as much as my sister and I fought like cats and dogs, I kind of inherited her love of metal back then, like AC/DC, Guns N' Roses.
But if you were listening to that, back then, you had to wear a leather jacket. Remember?
Yeah.
You like it. So if you were a rocker guy, you had to wear a leather jacket, or you just weren't allowed to be listening to that music, I guess. Very strange. I know today people find that hard to believe, but it's true. You had to dress a certain way.
We also had MTV when it was MTV.
Revolutionary at the time.
Like the Real World and all these shows. We remember the hours where there were music videos. And one thing I remember from my childhood, this goes back to middle school. And I used to watch this with my sister on Friday night. It was like Friday nights at 10 or 11. You would vote in for best video.
And it actually went through. You could call.
Yeah, well, yeah, they charged $2 for the call.
Because our younger viewers, they're not going to have a concept that the technology back then just isn't what it is today. I mean,
it wasn't what it is today.
Right.
Today, where 800 numbers are basically free.
Right.
Back then, I'll tell you a famous one. Being a comic book guy, when I was 15. Oh God, you might remember this because this was the year we met. And I was devastated when this happened. There was an issue of Batman where Robin got blown up.
Oh, that's just
and
terrible.
At the end, the fans were given, let's say, a 2-day period where they could call up. It was 2 800 numbers, one if he lived and one if he died, over, let's say, a 3-day period. Each call was something like $1.50 or $1.76.
And that was some money back then, remember?
Yeah, and, it's not like today's.
Yeah, you could get a bunch of things at the ice cream man for that money back then.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, like 6 or 8 things. Yeah.
$5, you can go to McDonald's.
Oh, yeah.
Quarter pounder, large fries,
and maybe some gas money. And maybe some gas money on top of that too. You could probably put two of those dollars would be in the car.
Right. You could get by with $3 in gas and get through, let's say, 2 or 3 days, like half a week of gas. Because gas was like $1, so
yeah. I mean,
gallons, if your car got 20 to 25 miles a gallon, which most did, because let's face it, we drove clunkers back then.
Hey, not me. Not me, Paul.
Only got 20 miles an hour.
Who is saying drove a clunker? I had a '69 Dodge Dart. I think you know about.
Oh yeah, well, you're the king of them.
Yeah. Well, the green one is what we're talking about. It's a '69 Dodge Dart. It had a slant 6, and we would cruise, and we had a great time doing it. We would be great time. Great time. Yeah. I mean, for those of us that are watching that are in their 50s like me and Paul, thinking back of just going cruising around town with your buddies, that was a blast. We did a lot of that. We did a lot of that, and we would go what would be called Downport, which is really Port Jefferson, down by the water on Long Island, New York. Always something going on down there. Always cruising around. Just cool to just have the windows down, cruise around. I don't think that thing had AC or power steering. And that's right. They didn't, but that car had some zip. It was that slant 6.
Especially when you used to set the idle higher.
Well, the trick with that car was, which ultimately brought it to its death, was, hey, I'd shift it like it was a clutch. No, it was a full automatic, but I'd put it in L2 and rev it all the way up and then go to L1, L2, I should say. And it was pretty fast. And, I'd say, don't ask me how I know this, but it was just as fast as a friend of mine who had a Camaro that was from that. I won't say how I know that. No, yeah. So, very fun, and that's back, people forget that, like, back in the late 80s, you could have a car, and they'd have the back wheels on that were these ridiculous, like, snow tire wheels. They almost had like knobs. You remember what I'm talking about, right? They were like almost like 4-wheel drive truck on a car.
Here's something that'll make you really go back. We used to sometimes go up and down Nichols Road. Because back then, Nichols Road didn't have the series of lights it has now.
Right, so Nichols Road, so what that would go up in Selden, Long Island, Suffolk County, New York, right? But Nichols would go up and then go all the way down, all the way down to Bayport, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's basically traversing Long Island from top to bottom, from north to south, and that's it.
As many lights as it had.
Right, that's correct. Yep. It was just like
you can almost open.
Well, yeah, and it was, basically a highway that was unrestricted, basically, and there really wasn't much traffic on it. So that.
And when we were younger, Boyle Road didn't have all signs until we got in our late teens, early 20s.
Right, because I went to Boyle Road Elementary School, and you could take. Right, and so I don't recall all the stop signs. They put them in later, probably because of me and you. Right, or what we did in a '69 lime green Dodge Dart. By the way, everybody, it wasn't. It wasn't blue. It wasn't red. It was lime green. It was the Green Machine. I'm still trying to remember if I was proud or embarrassed to be in it, but
You know what? You didn't care.
I didn't care.
The thing is, it got you from point A to point B. It didn't have a ton of mechanical problems. And, you know, it accomplished what you wanted to accomplish.
Yeah, I mean, and it was fast. It was, you know, like 0 to 60 was amazingly fast for a 1969 car. It was not a heavy car. So we're on a rampage about this Dodge Dart, you know. Ever since you had brought it to my attention, you know, we had met over the winter and now it's coming into spring and I was looking, I'm like, hey, maybe we could buy a 69 Dodge Dart and drive around in it this summer until I saw the price of one. Like $40,000 for a 69 Dodge Dart, which mine was worthless at the time. I think it was $400, you know, something of that name. And when I was done with it, it was worth 2 cents. So that was it. So, but
hey, look, my first car when I was done with it was, you know.
And you know, the 69 Dodge Dart was not my first car. I must say the first car I had was far worse. It was a Chevy Nova and it was brown. And we did buy that for $400 from a relative and it was slow as a turtle.
You remember something, 400
was like $2,000 today. Yeah, well, it would be. Well, for us, it was expensive. I mean, we were not.
It was, you know, you were lucky if you made $4 an hour.
Right, I would say that it was.
$365.
That's right.
You know, so, and we worked jobs like RD, the steam room. This wasn't exactly glamorous. You know,
I mean, you earned every penny. You earned every penny you worked for. That's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Coming out of freezers, the dishes that, you know, after midnight being washed out.
Yeah. I mean, we've seen a lot. We've seen a lot. I have a feeling we're going to see more, the way things are in the world these days, but, we have seen a lot. We've seen a lot of change. Now, can you imagine, you know, somebody who's like a World War II veteran, what they have seen over their lifetime? And I'm just, mind boggled by that. You know, the changes they've seen, even going from not even having television to, what we have today, where you can type in an address and get directions to California from New York in, you know, half of a second. That's a miracle for me and Paul, you know, I would say.
My grandparents were born like 1919. My godfather was born 1925. And you just think of, or 424, I think he was born. You know, to be kind of like born during the Roaring '20s. Be raised in the Great Depression.
Amazing people.
My grandmother and my father's side was one of the few kids actually had divorced parents. At 11 years old, she was living with her mother. She one day just packed up her bag, walked right out the door, walked right down the street to her father's house, and said, I'm moving in.
Wow. Very interesting. But tough times for those days.
The world was just so different.
The world was much, much different. Now, as far as, I never asked you, where were you born exactly?
From Long Island, Huntington.
Oh, you're a Huntington man. So, Huntington on Nassau County side or Suffolk? Right? Because it's on the Suffolk side at that point. Okay. So you're still a Suffolk County boy like me. Okay. I'm looking on the other computer here. Okay. I'm looking on the other computer.
I was born in Huntington.
Uh-huh.
Was my mother was a dietitian in the hospital. think it was Huntington Hospital. So it was a matter of probably where my mother felt more comfortable. Because her doctor probably was associated with the hospital, if I had to guess. And it was just where she was born. I mean, where I was born.
Very cool.
I think my sister was born there too.
Very cool.
Confirm that, but I know I was.
Okay. I was born in Southside Hospital in Bayshore, New York. Yeah, a lot of people born there. But I have the other computer opened up here. I'm looking at your resume. You went to St. Joseph's College in Patchogue.
Which is very different than it was when I went to school.
Okay. But that's kind of cool, very convenient. That I remember when that college opened up, that gave a lot of opportunities for Long Island kids in Suffolk County in that area, and Suffolk Community College as well. I see. They were. Yeah, they were. And are they still in operation today?
Yeah, but they're different.
They're just different. Okay.
I hate to say it, but they're kind of like a lot less in the Christian ideology.
But they kept the name.
Yeah, well, they have an alumni, they have donors.
Okay.
They have, the name brings kids and tradition.
Right, gotcha. And you have a BA.
Ultimately.
You have a BA in English.
Right.
So sometimes when I go out of state, they still say I don't speak English because they can't understand my accent because I'm from New York. And I offer them a translator. You get that too, right? So maybe we should put subtitles on the bottom of the video for anybody that doesn't understand our accent. But that's really great. I mean, the BA in English, you're on the Dean's list. Well, I've never been there. So how does that feel?
Down, just,
That's awesome. Very good.
I'll tell you why. This is going to be totally sexist in a certain way, but most of the good-looking girls were intelligent.
Long Island ladies are very smart. They have the looks and they're intelligent. Best of both worlds. And of course, if they're going to college right there, that too. So who doesn't like somebody who's smart like that? Of course.
It's kind of like the first time girls with half a brain actually started talking to me. So I was like, okay.
So that was your motivation to finish college and get on the Dean's list? Because I know nothing about a Dean's list. I just said, who's this guy Dean? But no, I'm just kidding you. That's great. And we're getting old, my friend. That was in 97. So the crazy coincidence that we probably did not know, I was working with Patchogue Village constables at that same time, 96, 97. So if you saw any of those Patchogue Village constable vehicles going by, I was in it at that time. That's crazy. Crazy. Wow.
Yeah, well, we probably crossed paths a lot and didn't know it. Because at that time, St. Joe's was constructing their gym the first year I was there. And it was taking up half the parking lot. So there was auto rides from another parking lot. There were like constables driving around in addition to security. So, trying to, let's say, have college kids not slam their cars trying to rush for the few spots.
Right, so there were Patchogue units, you're saying, that were on the college campus. Is that right? Oh, okay, that's interesting, because I kind of stayed away because I knew the security had it. I didn't want to step on their toes, but certainly on the outskirts, or if they needed us, of course, we would go in there and assist. But that's really cool. Now, You started teaching right after that in Brooklyn, but okay, it's out of a Brooklyn managed organization is where you were going. 6th, 7th, and 8th grade teaching.
That was my second year, yeah.
Yeah, so 98, 99, that's pretty impressive. And then back in 99 and 2000, you're working out of Bayshore where I was born, right? But
actually, no. First year was in North Carolina.
okay.
Second year was in the city, and after that, I got into home teaching.
Okay. So, I mean, the way I see it is you deserve a lot of credit because you're teaching our kids, taking care of them. And I know I don't have to say it to you, but when my daughter goes and teaches the children in the public schools, I say, take care of those kids. You know, I think teachers that care and love the children, they're the best. And I know that some teachers loved us. There's no doubt about it, Paul. And some of them, some of them did. Some of them tolerated us, and there was some that loved us. That's right. They loved us, and and again, I can say this in a court of law. You're a great guy, a loving person, a kind person, emotional. So I could just imagine, like, I kind of wish I had you as a teacher because I know that you would be so understanding. And that's why I guess we should kind of theme even this talk as like, hey, being a teacher or the importance of being a teacher and a good teacher and making sure our teachers are taken care of too the correct way, ultimately making sure they're paid well and compensated well. They're just so important. And I know a couple of teachers that you and I really loved, and again, it made the difference for me and you. It did. I mean, to be honest, there was some times, and we have to be honest with ourselves, and that's part of being on a podcast and reaching viewers and being honest. But some of those teachers, I was kind of going there just to be in their class. Like, hey, if I didn't want to go to school that day, but you know what? I'm going to be in so-and-so's class. I really like being with them. And, and then you were going, like, okay, I'm going to go to school, and I think we were closer to teachers back then than we are now. Like,
yeah, because the nature, I think, of education is changed.
Right.
And I guess that things change over time, but I'm not sure everything's changed for the better. I mean,
you're the expert on this, so I'm going to yield to what you're saying.
For example, like, they've watered down stuff like testing and the regions, and I think they push too much for getting test scores than teaching the kids.
Okay.
Like, for example, when me and you went to school, now I couldn't do anything with my hands. I got 3 left. But there was definitely a good program of wood shop and auto shop and posties, and that would offer paths to kids who, let's say, weren't going to become the next English teacher or the next journalist, because you still need people in society who are going to be your carpenters or be your chefs and your cooks. Or very simply, know how to work metal.
Right.
And these skills today are just less. And, our age kind of started it in a way, but it got to the point where, try to get like a carpenter to do something today. They're so rare that, you're lucky if you get a guy for weeks.
Right. And then, my daughter tells me they're no longer teaching script as handwriting in school, which is baffling to me. I can't even begin to understand that, but I guess maybe...
Third grade was like script. I remember that well. And
So
you learned how to do each letter
we knew, yes,
individually.
and you did it over and over and over and over again in the book, where they even showed you where, how high to go up and everything. It was quite complex, I guess,
because
but
it was building memory muscle.
right, exactly. And then, so now, if I write an invitation or maybe a Christmas card or something, I'll write in script. And if my daughter sees it, she's like, "Oh my God, how did you do that?" And I'm like, "Do what?" And she's like, "Well, you're writing in like calligraphy." And I'm like, "Well, it's not calligraphy, it's script." And they're like, "What is that? They don't teach that. They don't teach it. It's a lost trade now."
Because today, everything's so high tech that, they're shoving computers in front of kids or laptops or these iPads and stuff like that, before they can practically walk.
Right. Yeah, I mean, there's 3-year-olds on a cell phone right now. So I guess that's the age where we're at. This is nothing different than
phone. No,
man. Yep.
More 20. No, you had a
Well, the beepers were even big technology. I mean, I remember, listen to this story. I watched, I think it was the Dinah Shore show or maybe Phil Donahue. And I mean, I must have been 12 or something. And they were saying, hey, they brought on the show this big box the size of a car battery. And they said, well, this is a cell phone. And I'm like, well, what the heck is a cell phone? And they said, well, wait a minute. I didn't believe a word they said at the time, but they said every one of you, everybody watching, is going to have a phone that they'll be able to carry around and make a phone call. And I said to myself at that very moment, you mean I could make a phone call from a closet? Like, that's impossible. That'll never happen. I remember saying that. There's just no way in any chance that's ever going to happen. And it took a long time.
When we were kids.
If there were, I don't remember. I mean, there were cell phones, I guess maybe when we were teens, but only, I mean, maybe a billionaire had one, and it would be, I guess, limited service, and it would be the size of a car battery in a car.
Yeah. You had to, it was huge.
Yeah, and I don't think it was working off a cell phone tower. And maybe somebody can comment on it, later on after this video. I'm curious now. I might have to look it up, but I would think that's just a big, huge radio. It's probably just shooting a transmission like a radio, not because there was no cell phone towers and you're not using a satellite. So what they were using, I don't know. I'm just thinking it's a big, huge radio at that point.
The big thing that we had then was, it was cool if you had a wireless phone. Like, a cordless.
So you're talking about, right. That was the big deal back then. Yes, that was a big, huge leap in technology at that time. We had, at least in my lifetime, and I think in your lifetime, you had the phone. It was on the wall. There was a cord. The people that were smart had a cord like 20 feet long. If you could find one in a store, you could add a longer cord that could get you all the way to the kitchen or something. And it was a rotary phone, and you dialed O for operator. So if you needed the police or the fire department or an ambulance, you dialed O, and it took like 3 seconds for it to dial because it. If you look at a rotary phone, how that works, they're like, what the heck? So yeah, then we had the big leap. On what night?
We wanted to hang out on Friday or Saturday.
Right.
One of us called the other.
Right. Okay. How we?
Basically, how it happened.
Oh no, yeah, and now that I think of it, I don't even know how anybody got in touch with each other because if you weren't home and you didn't answer, there was not even an answering machine.
You left the message, and you
well,
were lucky if you.
I don't even
rely on your parents giving you a message.
If that. Okay.
Oh, my sister and I used to yell at each other if we missed a message from somebody.
Yeah, that would be like devastating at that time. because it'd be like missing a letter. It'd be like sending a letter to somebody overseas and not getting a letter. It would be right up there with that. It would be like devastating to not get it, because you would have to sit at home and wait for somebody to call you, and then don't go into, if you break down on the side of the road, well, you're going to be doing a duffel bag drag until you find a phone on the side of the road. It could be a couple of miles. You were walking.
I just thought of something like cooperating. My mentor teacher, he had 3 daughters. And I remember once he told me, one guy came up to the driveway home, to tell her to come out for a date. He walked out there and, knocked on the guy's window and told him, if you want my daughter to come out, you have to come up to the door and knock. He went up to the door, knocked, and he said, nope, not home. She's not home. And he slammed the door in his face. Like, these kids today, they can just, you pull up, send a text, and, totally cut off the communication with the parent. And you're a dad of a daughter who your parent who lives with you. If you had a daughter whose prospective date didn't knock on the door, at least you can get a look at the guy, you'd probably go nuts.
Yeah, that comes with very, very good parenting. Sometimes you do have to intercede and, make sure everything's all right. My daughters have made good decisions for themselves. I really haven't had to worry about that, but I know exactly what you're talking about. And I think that's yet another show, another conversation that we can have another time. But, Paul, I want to close out here soon. Maybe some final thoughts, but it is, I think, so important, I guess, talking about being with high school friends, maybe reaching out to other high school friends you haven't talked to in 30 years, because you might be missing a really good friendship, and, we ain't getting any younger, and
Definitely not.
yeah, and, I would never think to go to a high school reunion or anything like that. And I went to one about a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, and it was beneficial. And you'll find yourself like somebody that you would never talk to in high school. Now you're like best friends with them because we're all adults now, and I think that's really positive. So there's people that I really weren't even close to, or maybe even saw them in passing, and then I run into them, or I run into them on social media or something, and it's like, oh my God, I'm like running into a brother almost. It's like, wow. And, you connect with them and you keep it positive, and, it's very beneficial. And that also goes, if you served in the military, reach out to your, former veteran buddies. I can't tell you how often I do that as well. I'm always talking to my friends I served with in the Army as well as the United States Air Force. Very, valuable friendships. But, Paul, I'm gonna certainly have you back on. It's so fun to talk to you. Whether we're on, whether we're on podcast or not, we're always having a good time talking, and it's entertaining to just listen to you and me talk. We can go on for a long time and really just talk out loud, and it becomes interesting, I think. And yeah.
Looking forward to the next couple of times we get.
Oh yeah.
That'll be fun.
Yeah, well, I hope you're brave, because we're going to get a little bit more animated, and we're going to get YouTube videos going on, and or I should say Zoom videos.
That's fine.
Yeah, we'll facial expressions are always more exciting as well, especially from me and you, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. So thank you so much, Paul. I love you. You're. And hey, everybody listen, don't be afraid to say I love you to somebody, because you gotta be man enough to do that. And, I love my buddy Paul, always have, always will. And, keep the love going all the way around the world, and, reach out to friends you haven't talked to in a long time. You'll have a good time, reconnecting. And, Paul, we're gonna be getting together in the summer, and we're gonna go to the Hamptons and hang out, I think. Sound good, man? Okay. All right. Well, thanks a lot. Oh, well, okay, April 17th, I'll be up in Bayshore at the Bayshore Brightwaters Library. I'm doing a TWA Flight 800 presentation for none other than the Bayshore Historical Society. So I'm very proud that they asked me to do that because being born in Bayshore, what a great honor it is to do that for the Historical Society where you're actually born. And so we'll be, remembering the victims of the crash is what I hope to do. And, we're going to be talking about the crash from a historical point of view and just.
I remember it was actually that's what happened is when I started to go there.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, even talk about what people were doing that night and the memories it brought. But, I'd like to remember the victims. I think that's also a very good way to come together. And, maybe as a historical society and as a group, maybe we could just come together and embrace each other and pray for these poor victims that perished that evening. I think that would be a really good thing for us all to do as a community and let the world know that we haven't forgotten about the victims. So I'm looking forward to it. I think you're going to be there. I think your lovely wife is going to be there.
Yeah.
We're going to have a good time. If you're watching this video, come on and show up there too. We'll probably have some news agencies there as well, but it'll be a good time. And we might be going out to eat at the diner after that, which is directly across the street. I heard a rumor of that. I'm not sure yet, but I'm certainly going to try to do that. We'll have a good time. Yeah.
Are you doing it around that weekend, or are you going back home right away?
I'm going to have to go right back and head back to Maryland, but I plan to spend more time on Long Island in the summer of 2025, and let's go to the beach, hang out, or whatever. The Hamptons, where I like to hang out. So, but thanks again. Thanks for being a guest on the podcast, Paul. You're the best, and we're going to have you back many, many times. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, brother.
All right. Bye-bye.